if it wasn't like him, it'd probably be somebody else too that would have gone through the same situation.
And I told my brother, like, when George Floyd died, the sad reality is that in 2 months from now, 3 months from now, another one's gonna happen. And the next thing you know, Rashard Brooks dies. And sad reality, a month from now, 2 months from now, 3 months from now, another one's going to happen. And that's the problem, because Rashard Brooks did not get the same love as George Floyd did. And again, the whole problem of that whole thing is they should not be dead right now.
There's gradients of privilege, because you may not be wealthy, but you can still be white. And you can still be white and just know that if the police stop you, that you're going to be safe. That's a form of privilege.
I think one of the biggest things is that a lot of the time, police officers, they aren't really from that community, or they don't live in that community. So again, going back to Cambridge, that's what I've known. A lot of those cops live in Cambridge or are from Cambridge. So they went to the high schools, they went to elementary school. Like, everybody knows everybody, so it's like policing is different. But then when you go to somewhere where they don't live in that neighborhood and they've never grown up in that neighborhood, they don't really know anybody for real, they don't know anybody's story or anything like that, it can get real dicey.
I remember when I was 16, I was walking around my neighborhood with some friends. We were all Black. We were walking around my neighborhood, and a cop pulled up and was like, what are you guys doing? And then he went away, and we kept walking. And the next thing I know, 3 police cars pull up and block me and my friends in. And 6 officers get out the car. We're all 16, 15 years old. We're not, there's both male and female in the group. But we're just kids playing, having a good time. And they all get out the car, they blocked us in. And I thank God there was one police officer that was a Black female that talked them down. I thank God for her, because, who knows what would happen if she hadn't been there. In the moment, it's just do what you gotta do to be safe, But afterwards, definitely frustration, anger. I was a kid, I was just playing outside. And so for me to have to experience that in my neighborhood, literally down the street from my house, that wasn't a good feeling. It wasn't a safe feeling, a protected feeling that you should feel when you're at your home, near your home. I think someone had made a phone call, but I honestly don't know. They didn't tell us why they pulled up to us. But no, they were not from my neighborhood. I didn't know the officers that were in my neighborhood. There were only a couple. I've been living there since I was 8, 7. We always played outside. It wasn't uncommon, but as you start to get older, as a Black man, go from being just a cute little kid to becoming a threat. And as we got older, that's essentially what it became.
I've had 3 interactions where my life, I questioned whether I would live. And one when I was 20 years old, and I was in LA. I was in college and working in LA over the summer. Decided to go to the store to get a snack, 7-Eleven, which is the neighborhood 7-Eleven, take a nice little walk. And I'm walking, it's a short walk, and there was a senior citizen complex, lights on. And so I'm just walking, your window's very close to the sidewalk, and I just glanced over as I'm walking because the curtains were open. The sirens hit me, lights, and the police got out and started interrogating me and asking me, well, why was I looking in the window? It was a natural reaction. It's dark, it's very bright, windows open, so instinctively you just turn and look, because you keep walking. And so then of course I actually had a brush in my pocket. So a young man, you were just trying to get the brush waves, so I had a brush in my pocket. And so I was doing that, and they said, oh, what's in his pocket? And the one reached for his gun, the other pulled out his baton. They threw me up against the car. It was a very violent encounter. And then once they determined it wasn't a gun, but they reacted immediately in fear and with aggression. And so I'm like, okay, let me calm down. I was enraged. And I had to catch myself and control my anger because I was about to go off. But I just, I stopped myself because I knew in my spirit, I knew these guys would shoot me. So, by the grace of God, they ran my ID and had me standing there and all of this, it comes up clean. And of course, then they just kind of go on their merry way.
As a black man, but I'm somewhat confident saying for black people, every day is kind of like a war. One time I was getting pulled over, justifiably, like I definitely should have got pulled over. The officer came, and when he got to my door, first thing he said, like, so when I get pulled over, like I put my hands up. That's like, I want to make sure like you can see my hands, like I'm not reaching for nothing, cool. Like, and I leave them up until they get to my window. That way they can see my hands. They see I have nothing in my hands. Like I'm not a threat to you. So I roll my window down. First thing he says was, I see your license to carry. Do you have a gun in the car? And that was crazy for me, because for him to be able to just run that off my plate, and that was my first time even knowing that. I didn't know that your gun license was connected to your plate. It was crazy, because if I had a gun in the car, that situation probably would have been escalated differently. But I told him, no, I do not. And seeing his hand on his gun as he approaches my window, if anything, the only fear I should have right now is a speeding ticket, not fearing if I'm gonna make it out of this alive,
This is when I fresh moved out of my home. I was 18. So one night I decided, hey, I'm gonna, walk to Wawa, get something to eat, and come back. But I hate walking. I used to cut through an alleyway in the back, so I didn't have to walk through the Roosevelt Boulevard and that busy highway section. And the one night I was crossing into the alleyway, and one cop flashed his lights and pulled up right in front of me. And then, so I stopped. He got out of his car and asked me a question, what are you doing here, pretty much. And then another cop pulled in behind me and cornered me in the alley. Yeah. So I was there for a hot minute, and they were just oh, are you relations to blah so and so? I'm like, I don't know who that is. And there's we have a suspicion that you there's a lot of drug dealers, so we have a suspicion that you might be a drug dealer. So I had a backpack on, and I pretty much looked like I'm 12. I didn't have any facial hair at the time. So I looked like I'm fresh out of high school. I just moved out. I looked like I'm 12. But they had the suspicion that they were just oh, you're selling drugs. So they stopped me, frisked me, and took my bag off me and checked everything. And I was there for a good while, and they were just asking me all these questions. No, I'm just hungry. I just gotta I just want to eat, go home. And it was yeah, they were just it was so weird how two of them had to stop me and corner me like an animal. I was what? Why? I was just thinking stay cool, calm, collected. Just don't piss them off, because if something would have happened and you would piss them off, I don't know what would happen. I don't know if I would be here, And they didn't say anything out. They didn't apologize or anything. They wrote my name down, and then they sent me on my way. Nothing happened.
When you're around black men, it is just, and especially if you live in a neighborhood that's over policed, it just, negative encounters with the police is just like going to the corner store. It is just part of the landscape to the point that you don't even really think about it. So there's no such thing as protecting and serving. It's really about how to avoid them, or how to navigate them, or how to manage them, and how to stay alive. So that's an entirely different dynamic.
It was actually the day before I was getting married. I was in Indiana, and me and my groomsmen, I think we were coming back from finding my ring. Whole nother story. But we were traveling. It was 5 of us, in a rental car. We all had, everybody had seatbelts on. We weren't doing anything. We weren't smoking or drinking or any of that. But I was unfamiliar with the area. And so I was speeding. I think I was going like 10 miles over the speed limit. It was like 35, so it was like 45 and 35. And police officer pulled us over, and all black males. And I just remember the fear that went through the entire car. Being in an unknown area, an unknown place, the vehicle, it's not ours, it's a rental, and 5 black men, at night, because it was like 11, 12 o'clock at night. And people in the backseat, like, all right, everyone put your hands on the headrest in front of you, nobody say anything, let Seth, I was the driver, do all the talking. And I just remembered that, that fear. And the officer came up and he's like, what are you guys doing out here? It's late. Do you know why I pulled you over? No, officer, I don't know. Apologize. We're not from here. My friend in the back seat was like, sir, he's got a wedding tomorrow. We're not from around here. Just trying to de-escalate the situation, try to make us, not seem as much of a threat. And thankfully he went away. And he gave us a warning. We went on our way. But just to have to, to know that every one of us, had that sense of fear that went through us, just to be pulled over by the cops. We just want to go home. We just want to, I just want to get married, tomorrow. The long-term emotional effects deals with whenever I get pulled over by a police officer, how I handle this situation will result in either me, living or dying. In the fact that there's a possibility that I could die is always in the back of my mind.
This was around maybe 94, 95 in Cleveland, and where I live. And I was going to, of all places, church. So I was on my way to church, my grandmother's, the family church, but their church. So I was visiting the church because they have family day. So the extended family comes to church. And, the church is in the hood. So I come up and I'm very close to the church. I get to a stop sign. So you're like, the church is sort of nestled in a residential kind of neighborhood. So I pull up to a stop sign. I stop. And these cops just came out of nowhere, guns drawn, got out of the car. There's two policemen. One stood behind it, flew through his door open, stayed behind the door, but pointed the gun at me. So the car's probably, 40 feet behind me, but he's got the gun pointed. The other one walks up to me and he has the gun, he's holding his gun. This is at a stop sign. I hadn't violated any done anything. And I'm like, okay. So of course I put my hands out the window and they come up to the car and of course they did the usual. They're looking, they just, where you going, what you're doing. I'm like, I'm going to church. Why are you stopping me? Why you got guns pointed at me? So, of course, the usual aggression and, give me your, they ask for ID and all of that, and comes up clean. And I just, what was all this about? Why, and of course, this is no cameras. This is not no smartphones or anything. And he literally just in a very smug way, we thought you were a drug dealer.
If a police officer that I had a less than ideal interaction with was watching the video, I would probably say to them, when you interact with someone, just like it says on your car, just like you said when you swore in, that your job is to protect and serve. I understand that I don't look like you do, and I understand that I don't look like your son or your daughter. But if a police officer were to pull your kids over, how would you want them to be treated? Would you want them to be thought about as someone that could be protected, that was supposed to be protected? And if you can think about me on that basic level as just a human that wants to be protected, that is trusting you as the person who protects our community, to protect me, that your interaction may be a little different.
It's wild that we even have to fight for our lives to matter. Like we're not fighting for inequality. We're just asking just to understand our lives matter, you know? Like, we're not asking for equal housing opportunities and equal job opportunities and equal education opportunities. We're not. Those are the things we should be asking for. Like, that's what's really going to help move us forward. But we're just asking, can we live? Like, can I survive this encounter with the cops? Can I survive going for a jog in the neighborhood? Can I survive biking in the neighborhood? Like, can I survive a routine traffic stop?
Right? We're not fighting against racism that was only here for 50 or 100 years. Like, we're fighting against a mentality and a system that was developed that has been in place for centuries, you know? And so it's not going to be overnight. One of the things that I always tell people is that we have to be part of law enforcement. We have all these bad interactions with police, but police in of itself is not bad, right? Law enforcement in of itself is not bad. It's the people that's in it. And so as long as we are not a part of it, we're going to still continue to have these issues. As long as we are still not a part of, we're still the minority in politics, right? We have to start branching out more and getting involved in the systems that make up this country, that govern this country.
A part of this for me is, I think it's the whole system. Like, I think it's just more than just the police department and police officers. Like, yes, there are bad police officers out there. Yes, they are killing people, especially unarmed people, especially unarmed Black people. Like, that needs to end. That needs to change. For example, Breonna Taylor's killers are still out. 2 out of the 3 of them are still free people. No, they're all still free. One got fired though. I just saw the video of one of the police officers that was involved with George Floyd. He was out at Walmart buying milk and cookies. Like, that is wrong, because if a regular civilian goes to kill somebody, even if it's justified, they are not out at Walmart getting milk and cookies. Like, even if you were in a fight for your life and you just happen to win the fight for your life, resulting in the other person dying, you will be in jail or on house arrest or something, even though it was a justified kill. And again, like I was saying earlier, it's not just police brutality that needs to change, it's the whole system. It's the whole system.
Yeah, I mean, obviously we need police. We need to have some sort of law enforcement. We do need to do that. In terms of defunding it, I see defunding it as probably a good short-term solution to force change, because I do believe that the culture in so many police departments is so rotten and so toxic, and there's actually documented history of the way that many police departments have recruited racists. You look at a lot of racist police unions. You could look at documented lawsuits, etc. So a lot of there's some police departments are just so rotten to the core that they have to have some sort of short-term disruptive impact, and that can have a short-term disruptive impact. And then the longer-term solution is then to actually have more community-based, policing.
We in America, we can't forget that it's an election year. We can't forget that even if you don't like either candidate, because I'm not particularly in love with either one. I'm gonna vote for one though. It's not the one that's in there right now. But like, I still got to get out there and vote. Everyone got to get out there and vote, because that's how things matter. That's how things change. Something that it took me a while to learn I didn't learn this probably like my junior, senior year of college. But local voting is way more important than presidential voting. Like, still presidential voting is important, but voting for your mayors and your council and everybody in your town or city, like that's where things get done.
First of all, I'd like to applaud not only black men, young black men and young black women for being at the forefront of change and driving this change. And it's real. I've had 4 white people reach out to me yesterday, clients, and they kind of beat around the bush, but it was, they wanted to offer some sort of support, and they say they wanted to talk. And they kind of generically said that, but it's young people who are driving that. So the words of encouragement is for the millennial generation, and the young generation gets sort of a bad rap. But man, I have a tremendous amount of respect for the fact that you are the drivers of this change, and you are making the difference